Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kick off. We're going to get the show on the road here. If I can get your attention. Ladies and gentlemen, shh, shh, calm yourselves. What's that? There's some great games we can play. Who can hear me clap once? Who can hear me clap twice? Boom. I love it. So much power. Right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Butcher. I'm editor at large for TechCrunch, which is a global news site about startups. And you are on the startup stage, and we're going to have an amazing session today. We've got workshops, we've got pitches, we've got content. So please stay with us. We are getting more chairs. We have reset the room to get more chairs. So we're going to get even more chairs. We knew we were going to be popular. But first of all, we're now going to get a speech about how to pitch as an EdTech startup, what's different about it in terms of the EdTech space compared to a lot of normal tech startups. And then we're going to do a workshop, which is going to be super interactive. So if you are worried about being embarrassed, then this is the place to be. We're going to be doing that. But first of all, let's hear a great speech now from Jan Lin-Matern from Emerge Accelerate, the EdTech investors, about how you talk about yourself and how you communicate as an EdTech startup. So please, big round of applause for Jan.
Could I have my presentation up, please? Tech team. So while they're getting that up, I'm afraid you have me again, but I will stick to what I think is a very useful set of insights around how to raise money. So this is not a traditional here is a template pitch slide deck presentation. It's more about understanding what investors are really looking for in companies and how you can sort of frame your company in a way that makes them understand why you're a good fit for them. So one problem that a lot of edtech companies run into is that actually, communicating what they're doing to edtech investors is quite straightforward. But as soon as they start pitching to non-edtech investors, they find it slightly more difficult because non-edtech investors are looking at these edtech solutions with exactly the same lens that they apply to every other company that they might invest in. And if you're finding it difficult to raise money from these people, it might just be because you are basically not communicating that you're building a $100 million business. It pays to remind ourselves of venture logic. This is an illustrative graph. Basically, what this is trying to say is that the majority of returns in the venture industry are driven by a very small number of deals every year. And as a venture firm, I care about being in those small number of deals. And if I'm not in them, then I'm performing less well than the S&P 500, and I might as well not be in this game, right? So, like, if I'm not in the companies that are generating a humongous return, I'm failing. And what that means in practice is that you, as an edtech company, no matter what impact you're making, and no matter how difficult edtech is, you need to compare to those other companies and have a credible story for how you can reach, at least if you're raising sort of Series A, Series B, how you can reach 100 million in revenue in sort of the next 5 to 10 years, which is what these VCs are aiming at. And so I think the question is, how do you pitch well? I think how do you pitch well? It starts sort of like with another question, which is like, how do you build a good company? Because if you've got a good company, then you can pitch well, right? And it's very difficult to pitch well if you don't have a good company unless you're being dishonest. So we're going to be assuming that you're honest, and therefore you want to build great fundamentals into your business. And I'm going to be spending the next sort of 10 to 20 minutes talking about a framework to help you understand what $100 million companies look like. So this guy is Brian Balfour. He is the head of sales for HubSpot. He also runs a really popular blog on growth called Reforge. And he developed this framework called the 4 Fits, which is a really useful way of describing what $100 million companies look like. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be applying an education lens to that framework, which is actually how we at Emerge evaluate opportunities a lot of the time. So this is hopefully useful to you guys to see how sort of decisions are made inside a venture firm like ours. So this is the 4 fits. There's 4 elements. There's the market and product fit, the product channel fit, the channel model fit, and the model market fit. And I'm going to be explaining these with an EdTech lens. And the key thing to understand here is that you need to have all 4 fits, and you cannot think about them in silos. So, if you change market product fit, then you have to change the other 3 as well. And vice versa, and that's true of any of them. It's important to therefore design your company from day one with all 4 fits in mind. Okay, so let's start with market product fits. The concept here is very simple. It's just you're building something that solves an urgent need and that people are willing to pay for. Every month I get approached by an AR curriculum product. Apologies to any AR curriculum products in the audience, because I'm going to be a bit brutal on these. Usually the pattern that we see here, so these are companies that are basically taking curriculum content from the school curriculum, and they're trying to create better engagement for students by porting that content into an AR or VR format, and it gets more exciting for the students, and there's hopefully greater engagement, which is something that teachers really care about. The pattern that we often see is that they have tons of downloads and 0 engagement. And so what teachers care about is, yes, more engagement for students, but they also spend more than 50% of their time on admin. There's 100 million teachers in the world. According to the OECD, they spend less than 50% of their time on teaching. So these products often fail to get engagement because they create more engagement for the student, but they don't actually take into consideration the behavior of the teacher, and they require behavior change from the teacher to actually use in the classroom, and so often they end up not being very sticky. Having said that, there are exceptions, obviously, and I'm not generalizing about this category as a whole. They're just a great example for why this stuff fails sometimes. This is an example of a company that really nails market product fits. So PyTop provides a learning assistant for teaching programming in the classroom. They are this year on track to making $20 million in revenue. They're selling, to school districts and governments around the world, and they are creating more engagement for the student. But crucially, they're also solving a massive pain point for the teacher, which is, a one-time event is happening right now, which is that coding is becoming a primary curriculum area as important as maths and English or language or whatever the prime curriculum areas are in most countries. And that's never going to happen again. And this sort of event hasn't happened for a long time. But there isn't a teaching force in place in most OECD countries that can actually deliver against that new section of the curriculum. And so PyTop's taking out all of the pain for the teacher in delivering that. And that's why they've just nailed it and have been able to grow so fast. And so Paul Graham says, let me go back here. Don't try to do something that for a lot of people that a lot of people like a lot, because if that existed, if that were possible, it would already exist. So as a startup, you basically have 2 options. Either you create something that a lot of people like a bit, which is actually a lot of EdTech out there. That's like the AR example, a lot of downloads and no stickiness. Or create something that a small number of people like a lot and that they urgently need. And then you make the bet that that small number of people is going to grow because there's a new market. And this is what PyTop's achieved. And here's some interesting problems that I'd like to see solutions to. And where we're looking for companies to invest in that I think have that same characteristic. And I'm excited that you're all taking notes, and I hope that you will approach me later with great ideas. Great. So let's say you have market product fit. The next thing you need is product channel fit. So most people approach building a company like this. They build the product, and then once the product works, they go and test a bunch of channels to figure out how to achieve growth. Sound familiar? That approach ignores a fundamental truth, which is that while you have full control over your products, you do not have control over the channels that are available to you in which to grow. So actually, the product needs to fit into the channel as opposed to you finding a channel that fits your product. There's a finite small number of channels available that every company in the world use to sell digital products. You're just going to be one other company using those same channels, and you need to think about from the start, how do I design my product to fit those channels? So you can think about channels on a sort of spectrum from high touch to low touch, and complex products are better for high touch channels, and simple products, this is oversimplifying it, but you get the point. Simple products are better for low touch channels. So anything can be sold in person. Slightly less complex products can be sold on the phone. For viral products, you need to create a product that's actually better to use, for viral growth rather, you need to create a product that's better to use with others, and where users are either sharing it loads or creating lots and lots of user-generated content in order for you to create a viral efficient that allows you to grow. For paid channels, you need a product that likely has a transactional element. So you see the ad, you go to the landing page or the app store, and you immediately have a transaction decision to make. Social often works better for products that are easily explained visually, like games, for example. Paid search often works for products where the customer is looking for a specific solution or a piece of content, like, for example, research aggregators. And so you need to just fundamentally understand these channels that are available to you and figure out how to design your product to fit them. And once in a while, a completely new channel is created and becomes available to people. And these channels then spawn a new generation of products, because that's actually the way it happens. Products are created, yes, in part by user need, and in part also by there's a new channel available, so everyone's now trying to sell to customers through that new channel. So one great example is WeChat, which has tons and tons of users, has payment integrations, offers apps to use WeChat payments is what I'm trying to say. And they have mini apps which users can install and use within WeChat without having to download anything. And so suddenly, if you want to reach a Chinese consumer with an education product, WeChat is an interesting channel for you to explore. But only certain products work on WeChat, etc. Good example of companies that or organizations that don't have product channel fit, actually, weirdly, are universities. So university is one of the most expensive, complex choice you'll ever make in your life, or a family will ever make in their life. And so it's suited for high-touch sales. And so universities are trying to achieve that through open days and through agents in different countries around the world. But actually, the reality is that a lot of university marketing still looks like that. And this sort of marketing just isn't suited for high-touch sales, for a complex product that's actually better suited for high-touch sales. So there's a massive inefficiency in that market. So one company we invested in, Unibuddy, is actually helping solve that problem. So they allow prospective students to ask the questions that really matter to people that know best, which is current students at university. It's a really, really simple product, just a line of code that universities can drop into their website, and which then enables basically prospective students to chat to existing students. It turns the existing students into a sales force, and therefore allows universities to offer a high-touch sales conversation to happen between prospective candidates at an affordable sort of level of cost. And weirdly, Unibuddy is sort of therefore helping universities solve their product channel fit problem. And they've got hundreds of institutions growing super fast in the US, as you might imagine. One thing I'd like to say is that there are some education products that are straightforward and transactional, a bunch of consumer apps, but actually if you think about it, when a customer buys an education product, they're often making a choice about what kind of person they want to be in future, or what kind of impact they want to have on other people. Those choices are complex, and they're often suited to a high-touch sales process. And a lot of companies we speak to, in their pitch, going back to how to pitch well, talk about how they will use a paid channel to get access to customers. But actually, sometimes our feedback to them is, we don't think that's going to work because the choice you're asking your customer to make is too complex to suit that sort of channel. You need to have either high touch, or you need to get customers to explain the product to other potential customers because of how complex this decision is. And this is creating another problem for companies in edtech, which is that if they do pursue the high touch sales route, they then have potential problem around channel model fit. So this is the third element. Channel model fit is a very simple concept around unit economics. Basically, the cost of acquiring a customer has to be proportionate to the value that you get out of the customer. And so another sort of spectrum. So on the left-hand side, you've got sort of less expensive channels. I mean, the least expensive channel is viral because it's literally free to you. And on the right-hand side, you have the most expensive channels like enterprise sales, where you've got people running around, going from school to school, university to university, trying to sell the products. In order to make these different channels work, you have to have what's on top, which is the annual revenue per user has to be, proportionate to the channel you're using. So either, if you're selling a $100 per year product, you can use paid, but if you're selling your product for 6 or 7 figures, then suddenly you can unlock enterprise channels. And the one sort of warning I want to give you all is that the classic example here is companies that are selling into the K through 12 sector, to schools, using an enterprise sales approach, here represented by this beautiful, colorful range of Power Rangers. And they, school products are often sold at a price point of $500 to $5,000 per year. And that simply does not support a sales force that looks like this. So there's often channel model fit problems in companies that we're looking at that prevent us from backing them. And then the fourth element is really around model market fit. So let's say you've got all the other 3. Then model market fit is the question of whether there are, given the price point at which you're selling your product, are there enough customers out there that are willing to pay in order to actually support a $100 million revenue product or company? That's pretty straightforward, right? So this guy, Christoph Jans, who runs a venture capital fund called Point 9 Capital in Berlin, came up with this very useful chart for displaying sort of a way of thinking about different types of customers. So who are you selling to? If you're selling at sort of 6 figures per year, then you're selling to elephants. If you're selling for $10,000 a year, you're selling to deer. Are you selling to rabbits, mice, or flies? And depending on who you're selling to, you need a different number of them. This is in millions, in order to support $100 million in revenue. This is like super simple maths, right? You get it. So what I've done here is I've adjusted the price points to price points we often see in the edtech market to make it more relevant, and then adjusted the numbers you need for each of those price points in order to generate a $100 million business. Also straightforward, right? So for example, if you sell a product at $1,500 a year, which is a common price point that we see in K through 12, you need 66,000 customers to make a $100 million company. So what I've done in this slide is I've looked at the US market, and then I've put in there what proportion of the market you have to capture in order to be at one of these sort of points of intersection. So for example, if you're selling to institutions at $200,000 a year, you need 500 universities. That represents roughly 10% of the US market. That's a feasible number. We love investing in these types of companies, or companies that sell at a 7-figure price, because there's a real market there. By contrast, actually, most higher education focused products we look at have a price point of somewhere between $10,000 to $30,000 a year. Because they're providing sort of point solutions as opposed to solving infrastructure problems, and so therefore it doesn't make sense for the university to pay more than that sort of level. But in order to get to $100 million in revenue, you need 66% of the market. It's completely ludicrous that you might achieve that. So that's why those sort of models are just not venture backable. If you sell to schools at a $5,000 price point, you need to reach 20,000 of them. which represents 15% of the U.S. market, which is, slightly more feasible than this sort of 66% number. But actually, in order to do this, the best channel to use is district sales or selling to governments direct, because you can go after big groups of them. And often, at least in the UK, people go school by school, which is just not a model that works for us. Then some people try to go after teachers, again there, if you get so the point I'm trying to make here is that actually most school products have a price point that's lower than $5,000, and it's just not a model that is that's possible to support. And so a lot of people are trying to go after teachers, but actually, if you sell to a teacher at that sort of price, again, you need to reach a massive amount of the market. Anyway, you get my point. So one market you might look at instead is the parent market, which a lot of companies like ClassDojo and Remind are now doing because they've hit this problem. But then you need to go back to your market product fit at the beginning, because then you need to rethink what the problem is you're solving for the customer, and round and round again we go, because suddenly the four fits change. So you get my point. A lot of companies in EdTech are just not addressing markets that are big enough. I've plotted out here the unicorns in EdTech, or some of them at least, against sort of price point and number of customers we expect them to have. And my advice to you is simply go and study these models and try and figure out whether you can learn something from them, because these are the sort of models that actually are able to raise venture. Great. So I'm going to stop there, Mike. To sum up, in a good pitch, you need a good company. To have a good pitch, you need a good company. Good company from a venture perspective means you can reach $100 million in revenue. In order to do that, you need the four fits, and you need a great team and great momentum and so on and so forth. But this is hopefully a helpful framework applied to EdTech, and that's it. So now I think we're going to do a bit of interactive stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Big round of applause for Jan. Okay. Let's see. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Great. Otherwise, I've just got a very loud voice. Right. Here's what we're going to do. Now, one of the things that Jan pointed out about the kinds of things that investors are looking at, but of course, when you're, by the way, you are now in a workshop. Okay. So we're going to relax. Okay. Everybody, just relax. Okay. Workshop style. It's okay, we're not going to get you to kind of, close your eyes and do mindfulness. It'll be fine. So one of the things, though, but when you're an investor, you're looking for these metrics, you're looking for this kind of product market fit stuff. But of course, when you're a startup, you've also got to communicate. And in order to be able to communicate, you also have to learn how to pitch. You have to learn you have to do about 3 pitches. You have to have the 30-second pitch. Yeah, we're Uber for cats. Amazing. Or that's less than 30 seconds. Or you've got to have your, 2-3-minute pitch, and then you've got to have like a much fuller pitch, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. But these are the sort of 3 main elements: short, medium, long. And you've got to hit certain things. So at TechCrunch, which is who I work for in my day job, we're always looking for things like the problem you're solving. So one of the biggest mistakes that startups do, and this applies to everything, not just EdTech, not just any startup, not just EdTech startups, but anything, is that you've got to say what the problem is. A lot of the time, startups go straight into, we are amazing because, etc. Yeah. What I want to know is, what's the problem you're trying to solve? I want to know the market you're addressing. I want to know some more metrics, and storytelling is incredibly important, like telling a story. Maybe something happened to you personally for you to attack this market. And, have you got some traction? Do you have a prototype? Do you have a minimum viable product? And eventually you're going to say, you want to talk also about your team. So we're amazing, we've got 150 years worth of experience. There's 5 of us, and we've all been around for 5 years. So, and lastly, you've got to talk about your ask. So sometimes startups, they go, we're amazing, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And everyone goes like, yeah, but what do you want? Do you want money? Do you want connections? Do you want corporate partners? Do you want distribution? Okay? So these are the kinds of key elements that we want. So what we're going to do now is put your hand up. Now, we're going to hear from startups all today, and there are some of them are sitting in the front row, and their name is going to be up in lights, ladies and gentlemen. But there are some people here who are doing startups who are not on the program, so we'd like to hear from you. So I'm going to pick a couple of people. So if you are doing an EdTech startup, put your hand up. And not on the program. Put your hand up, come on. Don't be shy, you're an entrepreneur. Not like this, please, so I can see. 1, 2. I think there's somebody on the phone there. Hello, the person on the phone. Is it a startup? No, they're not on the phone. 1, 2. Okay, right, you put your phone up? Did you put your hand up? No. You're a startup? Yeah, okay, stand up. You, stand up. There's somebody over here in the middle. Entrepreneurs, come on, stand up. That one, you, anyone else? And you. Okay, you guys come on up stage. Big round of applause, please. Now, can you come over here? Come over here. And we're now going to do a little workshop. Now, these people did not know this was happening. And we're now going to embarrass the hell out of them. It's going to be so exciting. So, Jan, come over here. And so what we're going to do is, in a row, we're going to do elevator pitches, okay? This is sudden death. Have you heard of Russian roulette?
But what's the award?
This is your eternal glory is your reward. This, ladies and gentlemen, so Diane over here, Diane, stand up. Diane's doing a new series of events in London called The Path Founder, and is running an event called the Pitch Roulette. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is welcome to Pitch Roulette. So what we're going to do now is, in 1 minute, you have to pitch your company. Do you reckon they can do it? Come on, of course they can. Now, they have to hit the problem, the solution that they've got, the traction they've got, the team they've got, and what they're asking for. So let's hear, come up first of all, stir. Okay, in 1 minute, round of applause. Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. In 1 minute, you can pitch. Go.
So we are a teacher capacity building app. There are around 260 million students who are getting taught by 9 million teachers in 1 million schools in India. Out of that, 30% of these schools have only a single teacher. The teachers don't get trained, they don't get updated about the latest pedagogical information or about life skills and gender skills, etc. So we are creating a mobile application using which a teacher can actually solve this problem. They can learn so that they can teach their students much better. We work with state governments.
30 seconds.
We have 100,000 teachers. They pay $10 per teacher, so we have $100,000 revenue. And we are, $1 million revenue. And we are going to go up to about 9 million teachers. That's the market size. But we aim to look at 40% of that in the next 5 years. I'm a PhD from IIT Delhi. My co-founder is a PhD. And we have a team of 40 people. We are funded by Google.org. We are funded by Central Square Foundation, by Grey Matters Capital, and by Paytm, which is one of the biggest companies in India in fintech. So we are looking to solve this problem through aggregation of content. And
1 minute, up.
Okay.
Stop. Okay. Well done, excellent. Now we have sort of a scenario here. We have a VC, Jan. So VC, now go VC. Questions?
Yeah. So I guess first question is sort of like, what's your unique insight about how you solve this problem? That means that you can create the solution.
So before we started this particular startup, we did close to 5 years of other startups in education where we failed miserably. But we had developed a lot of insight to education. We realized that the teacher is central. We did 300 focus groups discussions with teachers, and sort of ideated with them to figure out what are the problems that we can solve with technology. So this was co-developed by teachers and through
So
a partnership with them.
sorry to interrupt, but what is, like, in a sentence or two, like, the insight that other people don't have?
So essentially, while there are bigger problems to be solved, but the teacher wants to save time, and she has a Monday morning problem. On Monday morning, she has to go and teach 7th grade in English, maths. She wants to teach fractions, and within fractions, division of fractions. What we have done is we have actually broken down the problem into that size, and we have created a framework so that the teacher can learn how to teach in an excellent manner within 30 minutes of preparation.
Right. Oops.
One more question, Mike, is that cool?
Huh?
One more question?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
One more question.
Just how many signups per day organically?
So we typically work with the state governments. So we have 100,000 teachers on the platform in the past 1.5 years. But if you were to look at signups, at times we have 5,000, 10,000 signups in a day as well.
That's organic.
It's organic, not organic in the sense the state is also worked with us. So we partner with the state governments, right? So you need to partner with larger organizations. Going directly will kill you.
Got it. Thanks.
Fantastic. Great. Now, so come over here. Right. Now, 2 quick feedback from a journalist who's seen a lot of pitches. One was probably you talked very quickly, right? So I think half the speed. And what is it? Why do we love Shakespeare? It's because there are pauses. It's because we know that there is something of portent going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So, and what you want to do is you've actually got everything in that element, all the elements in the pitch. You could cut them in half and introduce pauses.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to revolutionize how teachers learn. Pause, right? That's all you need to do. So half speed, pauses, more portent. And remember, the other thing is, this is another thing, is what he was doing was this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing it. Now, you can hear me because I've got a microphone, but if I'm like this, and you can, hello, you've got to, like a rock star, pitch like a rock star, okay? Because the microphone, when you do that, the microphone can't hear you. But when you do that, the microphone can. So pitch like a rock star. Repeat after me. Pitch like a rock star. Right. Thank you very much. Okay. Next up. Let's go. Come on. Absolute incredible fame and a lot of tips. Right. Okay. Are we ready? Let me get my clock.
Well, wait. Tell me what I have to do again. No, you said I had to hit like 5 points.
You got problem, solution, traction, team, ask, stuff like that. Okay.
Okay.
Ready? Off you go and go.
Okay, more than 1 billion people have never read a book in their life. And if they haven't read a book in their life, that means they've never learned how to do anything other than what someone has taught them how to do. So they're destined to have a cycle of poverty forever. So what we do is we're a publishing company that creates books in mother tongue languages so people can learn to read in the language they speak at home. We work with children who are 0 to 5 and 5 to 8 years old. We have curriculum-approved books, and we have a team of 900 printers around the world, and we print in 100 countries. So the cost of production and distribution is very small.
20 seconds.
For them. The market is quite large. We have at least $3 billion in sovereign aid money already dedicated to solving this problem, and we're positioned to acquire those resources.
Boom.
Okay, so what's your...
Great.
So I would say, like,
Jan, feedback.
amazing way to sort of frame the opportunity and the problem and actually explain what you do. One thing that was missing for me was just more info on the momentum behind it. So I want to know whether this is a rocket ship or you're kind of been around for 100 years. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Okay, well, what we've done is we've taken the idea of on-demand publishing, which is like Shutterfly photo book publishing, and I own that software, and I've modified that software to make storybooks, not photo albums. And so we have, to date, with our technology, printed 30 million books, and in the United States, 1 million books.
And at what sort of rate are you growing?
Well,
And what's the base against which you're
well,
growing?
we've done the photo book business for the last 5 years, and so we are now just entering this. We're technically a startup for this project for the mother tongue books, but we currently have 134 titles, and we're working with major NGOs to do translations so that they're available in every country, and they actually provide for the resources for distribution.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now, quick bit of feedback. Stay where we are.
Yeah.
Hands up who knows the name of the company.
Okay. It's Global Storymakers.
What's the name of the company? Global Storymakers. Okay, get the name of the company in. Right, what's the other thing you did wrong?
Looked at you for help.
What you did wrong, here's what you did. You did a couple of things. You looked down, and then you also moved around, okay? You moved around. So what you do, it's a bit like a TED Talk. Stay, put your feet in concrete, and just talk, okay? Move your body, but don't move around. If you move around, people are like, why is the person moving around? What's going on here? What are they, a caged tiger? So just stay still and pitch like that, right? Okay. That's just real fit. Fantastic, though. Good, great stuff. Right. Now, I'm going to be unkind to the other volunteers because we're going to do this quite quickly because I want to make sure that we're on time for our programmed pitches. Coming up, sir. You've got 1 minute. Starting now.
50% of games is built on a platform. That platform is worth £2.7 billion, and it goes under the name of, if you go to Unity. University of Sheffield is building a platform for the next major opportunity, which is robotics. The ability to have a platform which is provided to everybody to be able to use to drive the data and the information and connectivity, the APIs for robotics. The ability to drive the ability to see through robots' eyes, the ability to touch through robot hands, the ability to have simulations through robotics.
20 seconds.
That company is called Gates. Companies looking for 300,000 to match fund university funding. And my name is Alan Greenberg. Thank you.
Whoa.
So I would like to understand more about the problem that you're solving.
If you consider the movement towards self-driving cars and the challenges that that provides, imagine that you have a fireman fighting a fire. Why could that fireman not be a robot? If you imagine that in terms of nursing, getting the right equipment into the right room in a hospital could be extremely valuable because the attrition factor of having the wrong equipment in the wrong place is a challenge. That could be done through robotics. Those robots would need to be able to see, those robots would need to be able to place themselves, those robots would also need to be able to interact with the consumer, be it the patient in a hospital.
Why are you, or why is University of Sheffield better at developing these types of robots than DARPA?
Because we've got 150 years of experience. No, I'm serious, actually. We actually have got 150 years.
In building
and I
robots.
actually qualify.
Very
and I actually
interesting.
qualify for 50%.
Very
of that.
modest,
That's not
very
true.
modest, very modest.
No, the point is DARPA has $8 billion a year which they invest in technologies, but they are not a creative organization. They don't have the academic rigor of a university. They don't have the experience of academic staff. We have that in spades.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now, here's what happened. Now, you've got 3 things going on here. He's a native English speaker, and all these pictures are in English. So, well done.
Do I do it in Arabic now?
No? Yeah, you can. Mahabra. So that's great. Great advantage. Second disadvantage, English people do go on a bit, don't they? And he spent too long on the problem, so you've got to attack the problem, but then get into what you're doing, okay?
But I did ask for money.
He did ask for money. But the other clever thing he did was this. I told him it was a 1-minute pitch, and he did it in 40 seconds. That meant that he had more time for questions. Hello. So when you do a 3-minute pitch, and you do it in 2 or 2.5, guess what? You get more questions from the judges. Haha. So when they say, yeah, you've got 5 minutes to pitch, you know, I'm going to do it in 3, and then I get more time for questions. So, anyway, thank you very much.
Also available for weddings and social events at any time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm starting to sweat now because we've only got 5 minutes left to do these. Come on up. You go next. Okay, go.
Hi,
1 minute, go.
My name is Andrew. We experienced that classical physics labs are very boring. And we want to improve this thing to create equipment to make classical music labs fun for kids, but still classical physics labs. And physics is a main discipline. You need to know to go with robotics and other things. So we are a hardware company. We are creating equipment for classical physics labs, and this is our equipment. We have several patents, and we are making this equipment.
Okay, I'm only allowed one question, so I'm going to ask the most important one. Are you trying to catch up with your customers, or are you still trying to push it toward your customers?
No, our customers are waiting for this product. They need it very much, and we tested it in a lot of schools, and we have a lot of sales, but we still don't have a final product. It's a prototype, and we are starting to mass production in months.
Fantastic. Great round of applause. Right. He's got 2 things going on. So, one disadvantage. Are you an engineer by any chance?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, it's not prepared.
Engineers are very humble people. We love engineers in tech. But if you are an engineer, and if you're more of an engineer founder, then go and, where are you from?
Ukraine.
Ukraine, right. Go and have some vodka, and then get on stage. Go and practice, practice, practice. Why is it that some people are so good at pitching and some people aren't? Practice, 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 practice. And, you know, I'm just going to have to say this, well done, America, because you came out of the, when you were born, you were pitching. And they're very, very good at that. So learn how to do that. Learn how to practice. Do it in front of the mirror and practice. And the other thing, what's the other great advantage you've got? Here's the great advantage. He's an engineer, and a VC or an investor is going to go, his pitches really badly, but oh my God, he knows his product, right? Well done, good. Okay, well done. Okay. Okay, ready? Go.
Yes, thank you. My name is Roger Berry. I'm the co-founder of a software company called Kalinda. We're raising $200,000. We already have about 120 circled, so we're looking for about $80,000 to fill it out. Here's the problem. The best learning in the world is social learning, where we activate our minds and we think together. But social learning is hard to implement because of constrained times. It's hard to measure, to know who actually did what. And it's hard to think together. It's the most difficult thing is how do you get a team to actually work productively. Now, at the same time, there's been a revolution in the last 5 years, which is there are now 10 billion users in chat applications. We love talking, but these chat applications are unproductive. They don't allow us to organize ideas. So our software does 3 things. Allow you to organize ideas out of conversations, whether in person or out of chat. Second, allow you to understand who contributed to solutions. And third, to create data about those solutions to know how we actually went about solving a problem. The team...
Amazing. Love the premise. So obviously we ran out of time there to understand kind of where the companies come to. So you know, do you have a product out in the market, and what can you tell us about how your users are engaging with it and how they're using it every day?
Yeah, so this is a pivot from a previous work that I've done, so I've kind of been there before. We've piloted in universities and with some high schools, and so we're ready to scale. And the team includes one of the former chief architects of IBM Watson and people who have done over $300 million of research and development for NASA and the US military around data, technology, and human performance.
Fantastic. Right, great. Two bits of feedback. One, you obviously know your subject. You're amazing, acing it. You're wonderful. One bit of feedback is this. What did you not pick up? Passion. Very conversational pitch, wasn't it? we're doing this and we're doing that and it's really amazing and da, da, da. Right?
Only had
When
3
you
hours
pitch,
of sleep last night.
you got to be on it as an entrepreneur, haven't
Absolutely.
you? Right. Conversational. So conversational pitches don't only work really in a boardroom context. When you're doing in front of a stage, you want to show that you are passionate about this. Well done. Thank you very much. Right. Right. Last two, go.
Hi, this is Hannah, and I'm the curriculum head at Beyond the Classroom. I spent 18 years doing finance, and I realized my heart doesn't lie there. This is an average story of every Pakistani kid. Hence, we started this company where we talk about independent critical thinking, sense of identity, and most important, empathy, because our classrooms are focused on books. And we want to move away from there and help them realize who they are, be empathetic towards each other, throw away those papers, make classrooms as fun as possible. That's it.
Amazing. What's the business model?
So right now, we pitch directly to the kids. They sign up for the program. With the business model, we do 50% of grants and 50% of our own work. So we're doing a blended one.
That's it. Did the whole one question and one pitch in less than a minute. Amazing. Great. Fantastic. Great. Now, actually, I think it was a pretty well-rounded pitch, actually. You got it in there.
Thank you.
And one of the, you know what I think you did really well? So, but here's one thing you could expand on, is what did she do right at the beginning? What was the first thing you said?
I spent 18 years. I spent 18 years studying, and I didn't realize my heart lied in education, and I was done with MBA and
There you
finance.
go. Personal. She made it personal, right? She's so passionate about a subject, it's her story. So she's bringing her personal story to the whole thing. Fantastic. Well done. Okay. Last one. Okay, go.
Hi, I'm Yushan Park from DQ Institute. DQ is like IQ and EQ and DQ, digital intelligence. I hate most when people say, we need to teach children how to compete against machine. We need to empower children to become a master of technology, not a slave of it. Horse is faster than us, but we don't compete against horse, we ride horse. Most important thing is how we can teach children to become the riders of AI. Currently, digital literacy, digital skills are really fast term, but nobody knows what digital literacy really means and skills are really meaning. So what we do is that we publish today, we're releasing the world first global standard for digital skills, literacy, and readiness to report today. The reason I came here is that I'd love to work with all EdTech communities together to co-create the global standard. Thank you.
Thank you. One question.
Which market are you in, and is it China?
We are actually around 107 countries. When we become the global standard, we are going to be all 190 countries around the world.
Fantastic. One mistake, ran out of time. That was all. Okay, thank you very much. Big round of applause for our people. Woo! Thank you very much to our VC. Tian, thank you, you're running. Right, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going straight into the pitches. We luckily now only 2 minutes behind time. If you are a judge, you are now judging. If you are a startup pitching, you are now pitching in the next startups. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear, first of all, let's hear from our judges. Who are our judges? Please stand up. Melody Lang, oops. Let's do this quickly. Melody, one sentence.
About?
You.
Hi, I'm Melody Lang. I'm an advisor investor in EdTech startups and under MPA education.
Thank you, Melody. Round of applause. Next.
My name is Christopher Chaimba. I'm co-founder and director at Nova Pioneer Schools, based out in South Africa and Kenya.
Oops.
Thank you.
Well done. Next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Arnold. I'm the Chief Impact Officer at Rethink, and we're based in the States.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Antti Korhonen from Finland, running the Edu education startup business accelerator. We help companies to grow. We help companies to get funding. For example, Rethink Education and Emerge Education have invested to our startups.
I'm Justine Cassell. I'm the Associate Dean for Computer Science at Carnegie Mellon University and co-founder of the Simon Initiative for Technology Enhanced Learning. For 25 years, I've been building AI-enhanced systems to help children in under-resourced communities learn, and I'm excited to hear how your work works in that space and around the world.
Good morning, my name is Guillermo Fretes. I'm from Argentina, and I used to run for 3 years the EdTech strategy of the Argentina's Ministry of Education.
Hi, just in case you don't know who I am, I'm Carla. I'm the director of the Tomorrow Institute, a catalyst organization and thought leadership organization, and working a heck of a lot with startups.
Well done, thank you. And I'm Mike Butcher from TechCrunch, and I'm your MC. We are going to get the show on the road. Do we have our first startup? Zelda.